attention. And what if that person is family, someone you can't just ignore or walk away from? It might feel like there's no way out, but let me tell you something most people won't. There is a solution, but it's probably not what you think. In this video, you're going to learn the only way to handle a narcissist, even when it seems impossible. Stick with me until the end, because what I'm about to share could completely change how you navigate these relationships. And trust me, it's so much deeper than you realize. Understand what narcissism is before you act. Have you ever wondered why some people constantly need to be the center of attention? It's like looking at a broken mirror. It tries to reflect perfection but only shows distorted pieces. That's how a narcissist's mind works. Beneath their inflated ego lies a deep insecurity. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It means seeing the bigger picture. Narcissism isn't a deliberate choice. It's a cage built by trauma and inner struggles. When you get this, you realize reacting with anger only feeds the cycle. The first time I dealt with a narcissist, I was confused. It was hard to match their "I'm the best" attitude with those moments when their mask slipped, revealing someone desperate for validation. Has this ever happened to you? Their behavior often makes you feel guilty or responsible, but here's the truth. It's not about you, it's about them. And when you understand that, you start acting strategically, protecting your own peace while handling challenging situations. Take Marina's story, for example. She had a narcissistic father who, every time she achieved something, would shift the focus to himself. "Oh, you got good grades. Back in my day, I was the top of my class." Ooh, this kind of behavior can make you question your worth. But after learning more about narcissism, Marina realized something powerful. The validation her father sought through her would never be enough. This helped her adjust her approach and safeguard her self-esteem. Remember, understanding doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Many people confuse empathy with permissiveness. Knowing someone is trapped in their own insecurities doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your own needs. This is where personal growth begins. Instead of falling into emotional traps, you learn to redefine situations and build resilience. As a philosopher once said, "It's not the weight that breaks you, but how you carry it." Now let me ask you, how do you usually react to the narcissists in your life? Reflecting on this might seem simple, but it's where everything changes. Recognizing patterns and realizing that overcoming these challenges starts within you can be a game changer. When you focus on building inner strength, you stop playing by their rules and start setting your own, prioritizing balance and self-care. Applying this to your life can be transformative. The next time a narcissist tries to throw you off balance, try this. Take a deep breath, observe their behavior, and respond calmly instead of reacting. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Over time, you'll see that maintaining your inner peace is the greatest achievement you can have. And ultimately, that's what changes relationships and protects your sense of purpose. One moment that deeply impacted me was learning the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic. Responding takes awareness. Narcissists thrive on reactions, but are disarmed by calm, deliberate responses. Can you imagine the impact of that? It's like extinguishing a fire with water instead of fueling it. Mastering this skill shows you that true strength lies in your ability to stay calm. To wrap up, remember that narcissism reflects something broken, not pure malice. Understanding this can change your perspective. It doesn't mean letting yourself be manipulated. It means acting more strategically to preserve your mental and emotional health. When you look beyond the surface, you develop empathy, but also learn to say enough when necessary. And that, my friend, is one of the most important steps toward growth and balance. Set clear and consistent boundaries. Have you ever tried drawing a line in the sand only to have it washed away by the tide? That's what it's like dealing with a narcissist without setting firm boundaries. They'll push and test limits until they find a way to take control. That's why your boundaries need to be solid, like a wall that can't be knocked down. Setting clear limits isn't just about stopping their behavior, it's about affirming your own worth. And believe me, that's more powerful than it sounds. Take Carla's story. Her brother, a narcissist, always tried to control her decisions. "You're not really going to do that, are you? What kind of person would?" He'd make her doubt herself constantly. But one day, she stood her ground and said, "I respect your opinion, but this is my decision." At first it wasn't easy, but over time he realized she wasn't going to budge. Carla's consistency gave her the safe space she needed. Have you ever been in a situation like this? Setting boundaries isn't about trying to control the narcissist, it's about protecting yourself. For example, if a narcissist often interrupts or minimizes what you say, calmly respond, "I need you to let me finish." It's not about arguing or raising your voice, it's about creating a space where your voice matters. This kind of personal growth teaches you that standing firm isn't confrontational, it's self-respect. Of course, it's not always smooth sailing. Narcissists hate being told no and will test your limits repeatedly. Staying consistent requires resilience. It's like building a muscle. Uncomfortable at first, but you get stronger with practice. And the more consistent you are, the less likely they are to keep pushing. There's an old saying, "What you tolerate, you teach." That couldn't be more true here. You might be thinking, what if I mess up? What if I'm too strict or too lenient? That's okay. Learning to set boundaries is a process, and making mistakes is part of it. It's like learning to ride a bike. You'll fall a few times before you get it right. The key is to reflect, adjust, and keep prioritizing your emotional balance. Remember, taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. A breakthrough moment in this journey is when you see your boundaries actually working. A client once told me about her father, a narcissist who constantly criticized her. When she started calmly but firmly cutting him off, saying, "I'm not okay with that," he eventually stopped. "I never thought I could change the dynamic," she said. But that's exactly what her consistency achieved. It's empowering when you realize you can take back control. Now let me ask you, do you struggle with saying no? It might feel scary at first, but it's liberating. Saying no is an act of courage and a reminder to yourself that your needs matter. A narcissist may try to guilt trip you, but remember, guilt is their favorite tool. By not giving in, you're reclaiming a part of yourself that may have felt lost. To sum it up, setting boundaries isn't about building walls to shut people out. It's about creating space where you can thrive. When you communicate what you need, you're not only teaching others to respect you, but also strengthening your own sense of purpose and balance. Just like a strong foundation supports a house, your boundaries support your peace, and that peace is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Avoid direct emotional confrontations. Confronting a narcissist is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. It feels right in the heat of the moment, but only makes things worse. Narcissists thrive on emotional chaos. It's where they control the narrative and twist the facts to their advantage. Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling like you were the bad guy, even though you weren't? That's their skill. The key here isn't to avoid difficult conversations altogether, but to approach them with calm, protecting your peace at all costs. Think of it like a chessboard. A narcissist plays the emotional game like a seasoned strategist, always planning their next move to stay in control. I remember my friend Raphael, who constantly got into heated arguments with his narcissistic sister. He'd get so caught up in her provocations that he'd end up looking like the unreasonable one. One day, he decided to change his approach. Instead of reacting to her anger, he responded neutrally, "I hear what you're saying. Let's talk about this later." It was like pulling the rug out from under her. Of course, staying calm isn't easy, especially when a narcissist knows exactly how to hit your weak spots. Have you ever been in a situation where they pushed all the right buttons? Maybe at a family gathering or during a casual chat. The secret is this: your emotional control is your greatest weapon. Take a deep breath, count to 10, and respond only when you're ready. It's not always easy, but it's transformative. After all, as the saying goes, mastering yourself is true power. One way to think about their behavior is like a storm at sea, loud, intense, and unpredictable. But storms don't last forever. You don't have to face it head on. Sometimes it's better to let it pass. For example, if a narcissist tries to provoke you, shift the focus with something neutral. Say something like, "I get it, but let's discuss this another time." A simple response like that can save your energy and your day. The real transformation happens when you realize you don't need to win every argument. A well-known psychologist once said, "Sometimes the best victory is not engaging in the fight. It's true. By refusing to play their emotional games, you gain something far more valuable: your balance and freedom. Have you ever experienced the power of stepping back instead of stepping in? If so, you know how freeing it can be. The turning point is when you see that the narcissist can't control you anymore. Mariah, someone who shared her story with me, stopped arguing with her narcissistic ex-husband. To her surprise, his behavior started to shift, not because she changed him, but because she changed herself. It was like watching magic happen, she said. That's the magic of resilience and emotional strength. Let me ask you, how many times have you gotten into arguments that left you completely drained? Could silence have been a better answer in some of those situations? Silence is often more powerful than words. It protects your peace and leaves the narcissist with nothing to latch onto. Give it a try next time and see how it changes the dynamic. To wrap it up, avoiding direct emotional confrontations isn't about running away. It's about choosing where to put your energy. You don't have to feed the chaos. Instead, cultivate your peace, your inner strength, and your purpose. Because in the end, the greatest victory is staying calm and steady, even in the midst of the storm. Learn to disarm emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation is like a house of mirrors. You think you're seeing the truth, but everything is distorted. And narcissists are masters of this game. They use guilt, fear, and doubt to keep you under their control. Have you ever felt guilty for something that wasn't even your fault? That's exactly how they operate. The first step to disarming manipulation is recognizing their tactics. Once you understand the game, you're already ahead. Take Lucas, for example. He worked under a narcissistic boss who would always say things like, "If you were more committed, this wouldn't have happened." Lucas spent sleepless nights feeling responsible for everything. Then one day he had a realization. Wait a minute, I'm taking the blame for things that aren't my responsibility. From that moment, he began responding calmly with statements like, "I understand your concern, but this was a team effort." Slowly, the boss lost his emotional grip on him. Think of it like a puppet show. The narcissist is the puppeteer pulling strings to control you. But what happens when you cut those strings? When they say, "You never do anything right," you can respond with a question, "Why do you feel that way?" This puts the focus back on them and takes away their power. It's like flipping the script. They're not used to being challenged with logic. Personal growth starts when you stop reacting impulsively and start responding strategically. A narcissist might try to make you believe you're the problem, but here's the truth: you're not. Recognizing this is the first step to overcoming their challenges. As a famous thinker once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Reflect on that and ask yourself, how could you have handled certain situations differently? The turning point is when you realize you can predict and neutralize their manipulations. Anna dealt with a narcissistic mother who would say, "You only think about yourself," whenever Anna did something for her own happiness. After years of guilt, Anna began responding with, "I take care of myself because that's important too." That simple shift broke the cycle. It was a moment of realization that gave her back her sense of purpose. Sometimes manipulation is disguised as concern. A narcissist might say, "I'm just trying to help you," when their real goal is control. The best way to respond is with clarity. Say something like, "I appreciate your input, but this decision is mine." This not only disarms the manipulation, but also reinforces your autonomy. Each small victory like this builds your emotional resilience and inner strength. Now let me ask you, have you ever spotted emotional manipulation but didn't know what to do? Many people face this daily without realizing it. The truth is, manipulation only works as long as you allow it to. When you develop self-care and self-awareness, you start seeing these tactics for what they are: desperate attempts to control. And once you see it, everything changes. In conclusion, disarming a narcissist's emotional manipulation is about reclaiming your freedom. You don't have to live under their control. Instead, focus on your peace, balance, and purpose. Remember, the power is in your hands, and recognizing that is the first step to true transformation. As the saying goes, the light of truth is the best antidote to the darkness of manipulation. Prioritize your mental and emotional health. Living with a narcissist can feel like carrying an invisible weight every single day. You wake up tired, go to bed drained, and constantly wonder, is it me? Let me tell you, it's not. The problem lies in the toxic emotional dynamic they create. That's why prioritizing your mental and emotional health isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. After all, how can you help anyone or face challenges if you're not taking care of yourself first? Taking care of you is the foundation of personal transformation. Ana Clara, a dedicated teacher, used to live in an emotionally exhausting environment because of her controlling husband. He always made her feel like nothing she did was ever enough. One day, after a lesson on self-care, she realized something had to change. She started carving out 30 minutes a day just for herself, reading, meditating, or taking a quiet walk. These small steps made a world of difference. What about you? Have you taken even a few minutes for yourself today? Prioritizing your emotional health often means learning to say no without guilt. For instance, if a narcissist tries to argue with you when you're not ready, say calmly, "I'm not in the right headspace for this conversation right now. Let's revisit it later." It sounds simple, but it's incredibly liberating. You're not obligated to be emotionally available at all times. This kind of boundary protects your balance and ensures you're responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It's also important to create moments to recharge emotionally. Think of your mind as a reservoir of water. A narcissist is like a constant leak, draining your energy. If you don't refill it, you'll run dry. Therapy, hobbies, and healthy relationships are like streams that replenish you. Carla, a therapist I know, always says, self-care is like putting on your oxygen mask first in an airplane. Without it, you can't help anyone else. What do you think? Does that resonate with you? A breakthrough in this journey comes when you realize you deserve more. Jose, an accountant dealing with his narcissistic sister, had spent years putting his dreams on hold to please her. One day, he decided to focus on his own goals and opened his own business. "For the first time, I felt like I was living for me," he told me. That moment of awakening was life-changing, and it can be for you too. But prioritizing your mental health doesn't have to mean big, life-altering changes. It's about daily habits, setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness, reading something inspiring, or even watching a relaxing movie. These small acts of self-care add up. As one wise person said, caring for your mind is just as essential as feeding your body. So what's one small thing you can do this week to nurture your inner peace? Let me ask you, what have you done for yourself lately? So often, we focus so much on solving others' problems that we neglect our own needs. Take a moment and think about something you can do just for you, whether it's a simple walk in the park or seeking professional help for deeper healing. Share it in the comments. You never know how your story could inspire someone else to take care of themselves too. To sum it up, prioritizing your mental and emotional health is the greatest gift you can give yourself. It's not selfish, it's self-love. When you take care of your mind and emotions, you're creating space to grow, overcome challenges, and rediscover your purpose. Everything starts to align when you nurture yourself first. Because in the end, your inner strength is what will keep you grounded, even on the toughest days. Know when it's time to step away. There comes a point when you have to ask yourself, how much can I take before I lose myself in the process? Dealing with a narcissist, especially a family member, can feel like carrying a never-ending burden. You try, you hope, you believe they can change, but reality keeps proving otherwise. Knowing when to step away isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of courage and self-love. Sometimes, the cost of staying connected is just too high for your mental and emotional well-being. Louisa's story is a perfect example. For years, she tried to rebuild her relationship with her narcissistic mother. Every attempt at communication turned into manipulation or criticism. One day, after an especially painful argument, Louisa decided to put her peace first. "I still love her, but I have to protect myself," she said. The distance was hard at first, but it gave her the strength to rediscover her sense of self. Have you ever felt like you needed to make a similar decision? Often, the idea of stepping away from a narcissistic family member comes with guilt. We're taught to put family above all else. But what happens when that relationship destroys your hope and balance? It's not about cutting ties out of anger or resentment. It's about creating a space where you can breathe. As the saying goes, Loving someone doesn't mean tolerating what harms you. That's a powerful reminder in moments when the guilt feels overwhelming. Deciding to step away is like abandoning a sinking ship. You try to patch the holes, but you realize you're sinking too. The solution? Find another boat that can take you to safety. This doesn't mean leaving the narcissist to fend for themselves. It means prioritizing your own survival. When they try to manipulate you with lines like, "You're abandoning me," remind yourself, protecting your peace is the ultimate act of resilience. The turning point often comes when you realize you can't change the narcissist, but you can change yourself. Carla, a friend of mine, told me how stepping back from her narcissistic brother helped her rediscover her purpose. For years, he drained all my energy. When I created distance, I could finally breathe. That was her breakthrough moment. And often, it can be yours too. Stepping away doesn't always mean cutting all ties. Sometimes it's about limiting contact, saying no to frequent visits or choosing to interact only when necessary. Every situation is unique, and it's up to you to decide what level of distance works best for your emotional balance. The important thing to remember is this: the decision is yours. No matter what others say, you have the right to live a peaceful life. Let me ask you, what's holding you back from stepping away from someone who harms your mental health? Is it fear of judgment? Guilt? Identifying those feelings is the first step toward addressing them. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else realize they're not alone. Together we can find the strength to make those tough but necessary decisions. In conclusion, knowing when to step away is an act of love for yourself. It's not about giving up, it's about protecting what matters most, your peace and well-being. The path may be difficult, but the freedom and clarity you'll gain are worth it. Remember, your mental health is your most valuable asset. And sometimes stepping away isn't the end of a relationship. It's the beginning of a lighter, more balanced and purposeful life. We've reached the end of this journey, and I hope you've realized something important. Dealing with a narcissist, even a family member, isn't about changing them. It's about transforming how you protect your peace and respond to their behavior. Every strategy we've discussed is a step toward reclaiming your balance, inner strength, and control over your life. As the saying goes, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. If this video resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know which part impacted you the most. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. You could be giving them the key to finding their own balance in a challenging relationship. And don't forget, there's so much more to discover. In the next video, we'll dive into how to turn life's toughest situations into opportunities for growth and success. You don't want to miss it.